Hello students, as you know that the textbook of standard 11th has changed. So let me tell you that this textbook is divided into 4 sections. Section 1 is of prose, section 2 poetry, section 3 writing skill, and section 4 novel. So today we are going to deal with the section 1, that is 1.1, An Astrologer's Dream. Now this short story is written by R.K. Narayanan. His full name is Rasipuram Krishna Swami Iyer Narayan Swami, well-known novelist and short story writers. He has written 14 novels, and among them Guide is a famous novel which is picturized or filmed, and it also got Sahitya Academy Award in 1961. Then he has also written 5 volumes of short stories. Among them, An Astrologer's Dream is also a story which we are going to study today. On Doordarshan also, various stories have been telecasted titled Malgudi Days, and you know Swami was the main character or the boy. So if you want, you can watch these stories on Facebook as well as YouTube. So friends, today we'll start with this lesson called Astrologer's Day. Now, an astrologer is a fortune teller. He can tell us about our future as well as he can tell us about our past. Or in Marathi we call it Jyotish, and astrology is called Jyotish Shastra. Now the story goes like this. It is midday or afternoon time, and this astrologer, he opens his bag and he spreads his professional equipments. What are these equipments? A dozen of cowrie shells, then a square piece of cloth, obscure mystic charts, bundle of Palmyra writings, and almanac. We can call it almanac, or in Marathi we call it panchang. Then his appearance, he was on his forehead is resplendent, bright, dazzling, sacred ash, and vermilion. Vermilion is red powder. Then his eyes were sparkling and gleaming because they search for customers. So because of his appearance, his makeup, people used to get attracted towards him. Moreover, he had wounded a saffron colored turban over his head. So people get attracted towards him as honeybees get attracted towards the cosmos. Then next, the writer R.K. Narayanan describes the setting of this story, or we can say the place where the astrologer sits. It is a marketplace, and he is sitting under the tamarind tree. There a lot of people are there, crowd is there, people are moving up and down, and there is quite a hustle and bustle. So along with the astrologer, there were other traders or sailors having their different occupations. In that, there were medicine sellers, sellers of stolen hardware and junk, magicians, like we have Tuesday market. So this sound, or the din we call it, noise, it was too much, and because of that noise made by the sailors or these traders, it attracted the whole crowd. It attracted the whole people. Next to astrologer came a vendor, and what he was selling fried groundnuts vociferously. Vociferously means loudly. He was trying to sell his groundnuts, and every day he gave fancy names, funny names to his groundnuts. One day he called it Bombay ice cream, the other day he called it Delhi almond, the other day he called it Raja's delicacies, and so on. And because of this, people used to get attracted, or they gathered to buy these goods. Some people dallied. Now see, the word used here is dallied. Dallied means wasting time and hang around. You know that in villages there is no occupations as such, so people just hang around. So before the astrologer too, the people dallied. Then this astrologer, he transacted his business in the light of flare. Means the place did not have municipality lights, as it was village. There were no street lights, so the place was lit up by the light of the shops or the gas lights which made hissing sounds, or old cycle lamps. But it created an enchanting or magical effect, because there was no light. The astrologer was sitting under the tamarind tree, and the light used to flash over his forehead, so it looked very magical. So I hope you understood, no? Like he's having the astrologer sitting under the tree, then the writer describes the marketplace, and the light effects which make the astrologer more professional. Then the writer uses a very ironic sentence. Now this story is full of suspense and a thriller, and he uses a very ironic sentence. Now you know the name of the lesson. The name of the lesson is An Astrologer's Day. But let me read the sentence. He knew no more of what was going to happen to others than he knew what was going to happen to himself the next minute. He was as much a stranger to the stars as were his innocent customers. So in short, the astrologer was not a professional astrologer. This shows he was an astrologer by chance. Well, normally astrologers are from Brahmin families, but he was an astrologer by chance, because the sentence tells us he was not having knowledge of the stars, nor he was able to tell what is going to happen to him next minute. Then how can he tell what is going to happen in the lives of others? So it is very ironic sentence used by Arkenaren. But still people were pleased. People were astonished by the answers, by the these answers given by the astrologer. Now why? The reason is matter of study, practice, and shrewd guesswork. Shrewd guesswork means clever judging. So all this practice made him a perfect astrologer, even though he was not an astrologer in the real sense. And at the end of the day, he deserved wages because he was honest and a hardworking kind of person. Now, this astrologer leaves his village. Now, the writer takes us back in the past. Now, why he leaves the village, we don't know. There was no plan of leaving village, but the writer guesses if he stayed in his hometown, if the astrologer lived in his hometown, so he would have carried on the work, like taking care of the land of his forefathers, or marrying a woman and all that, like a farmer. His life would have been like a farmer. But now it is not like that. He is an astrologer now. So he leaves his village without informing anyone. Now again there is a suspense. Why he left his village without telling or informing others, his family members, and he travels non-stop, couple of miles. So can you give the reason behind that? Why he left his village? It is a suspense. So this story is full of suspense. Then on page number 4 of your text, the astrologer's style or technique, how he tells the fortune to the people. Now first of all, he charges 3 pies per question. Then he doesn't open his mouth. Then he asks the customer to speak for 10 minutes. After speaking for 10 minutes, the astrologer gets a lot of information about that person, and it becomes very easy for him to tell the fortune. Then he gazes at the palm and he replies that you're not getting results of your efforts. Then 9 out of 10 people agreed what he said. Then he used to tell that your relatives are not well enough with you, their attitude is not good towards you, or sometimes he used to analyze the character of the client. So this is what it is. Then it is night time, and the nuts vendor, the groundnut seller, which we have mentioned earlier, he blew out his flare. Means that was a signal for the astrologer. Now it is the time to go back home. What he does, he gathers all the paraphernalia. Paraphernalia means the cowrie shells, that in Marathi we call it kavdi, and then the charts and all those things he tries to gather. But suddenly he notices a man standing before him, and he senses that he is the possible customer. And then he starts a conversation with that stranger. He says, you look very careworn, you're full of tension. What is the matter? Can we sit and chat? And the stranger grumbles vaguely. Not clear. Vaguely means not clear. And then what he does, he thrusts his palm under his nose and says, you call yourself an astrologer? So the astrologer feels very challenged. And then he starts his usual questions, that your nature is, and then the stranger interrupts and he says, stops. I don't want all these nonsense things. So because of that, the astrologer gets piqued. Piqued means annoyed or angry. And then he says, I charge 3 pies for every question. And then the stranger takes out an anna and he flings on the astrologer. Flings means he throws an anna, coin, on the astrologer. And he says, I have some questions to ask. And then if you bluff, you must return that anna with interest. So if you are not able to solve my, give proper answers, then I will take that anna with interest. But then the astrologer says, if you find my answers satisfactory, will you give me 5 rupees? Then the stranger says, no. Or, will you give me 8 annas? Then the stranger says, all right, provided you give me twice as much if you are wrong. If you are wrong, I will take double the money which I have given to you. And then they agree. Pact is made. Agreement is done. And then, as usual, the astrologer offers prayers heaven to heaven. As you know, that prayer changes things. And till then, the stranger lights his cheroot or cigar. And in that matchlight, he gets a glimpse of that stranger's face. Till that time, the cars hooted, the jukta drivers sold horses. Jukta drivers means the people who drive horses, horse cart, and they sometimes use bad language. Then there was babbling, talking continuously of the crowd, and the stranger was busy sucking the cheroot or the cigar. Now, here the astrologer feels uncomfortable. Why this astrologer feels uncomfortable? After seeing the face of the stranger, so it is a suspense there. Okay. So we'll stop here. The half of the story will continue next lecture. But before that, I would like to tell you that you should carry out certain activities given in the text. Then one more assignment I would like to give, that expansion of an idea in 100 words. And the topic is practice makes man perfect. So you can take help of your 11th standard textbook. In that it has been told or explained that how we can expand the idea. Okay, so study hard, stay home, stay safe. Thank you very much. Hello students, as we have started with this lesson 1.1 an astrologer's day, and in that we have seen the professional equipments the astrologer has with him, and then his appearance, how he does his makeup. Then we have seen the village market, what kind of vendors or sellers this market has, and then the light effect which makes the astrologer more professional, and then his style or technique of telling the fortune. So the next, when he was about to go home, he come across a person, he meets the person, and then there is a conversation which we have seen earlier. Then they bargain regarding money and all that, and the astrologer agrees to tell the fortune of this stranger. And then what happens? He starts praying to God. He offers prayers to God before starting, and the stranger, he lights the cigar, and in that match light he sees the glimpse of that stranger. So there is a suspense that when he sees the match light, he becomes uncomfortable, or he becomes restless. Now what is the reason behind that? Why he becomes restless? Why he becomes uncomfortable? So there is a suspense. Then the astrologer says, take your Anna back, take your money back. I am not used to such challenges. Late for me, it is late for me now. I want to go home. My wife, my children are waiting for me. And he starts to prepare, to bundle up. Then what happens? The stranger holds his wrist. The stranger is very aggressive type of person, or very impulsive kind of person, and the astrologer shivers. He starts shivering, he is afraid, his voice shooks, and he faints. And then he says, leave me today, I will speak to you tomorrow. Now I am not in a mood to speak to you, so let us meet tomorrow. And the astrologer tries to divert his mind. The stranger says, you dragged me, challenge is challenge. So the stranger is not willing to accept what the astrologer says, and he says, you challenged me, it is a challenge. And then the astrologer proceeds to, with his drying throat, his throat dries up, and then he says, there is a woman, like that. He tries to divert his attention, and then the stranger says, stop the topic. Ask, and he asks, will I be successful in my present search? I am searching for something, and you tell me, as you are astrologer, you call yourself an astrologer, tell me, will my search will be successful? And then this goes on, and he says, you answer my questions. First you answer my questions, and then you can go. Otherwise, discharge all the coins. Discharge means you give all the coins, whatever coins you have earned throughout your day, you have to give it to me. So the astrologer mutters incantations, magical words. Now he is helpless. He can't go away. He cannot run away from him. And then he mutters some incantations, magical words, agrees to speak, and then again the bargaining starts. He says, "Will you give me a rupee? Otherwise, I will not speak." So after a lot of haggling, the word used is haggling. Haggling means bargaining. They agree. So the astrologer tries to predict the past of the stranger. Then he says, "You are left for dead. Am I right?" And the stranger says, "Tell me more, tell me more." He gets excited. Then he says, "A knife passed through you once. Somebody tried to kill you. Somebody tried to stab you." Since he says, "Good fellow," shows his client to show the scar. The stranger shows the scar where he was stabbed with the knife. He opens his shirt and so shows. What else? What else? Now he is very much curious, impatient to know about his past, which the astrologer was trying to tell him. Then he says, "You are pushed into the well to die. And you are left to die." And the stranger interrupts in between. He says, one passerby came and he had chance to peep into the well, and that is why I am saved. That is the reason why I am saved. Then the stranger is curious, he is happy, he is satisfied about what the astrologer is telling about his past, and then he clenches his fist. Clenching his fist. Clenching his fist means he becomes angry. He is about to catch hold of the person who tries to kill him and who pushes him in the well. But fortunately, his life is saved. But the astrologer gives something different answer to his question. He says, "Next world." Next world. You can meet the person who tried to kill you in the next world. Next world means he died 4 months back. He says he died. The person whom you are searching, he died 4 months back, and then he makes a groaning sound of despair. So the stranger asks, "When shall I get at him?" Clenching his fist. But the astrologer gives a different answer. He says, "Next world. The person whom you are searching died 4 months back." So after listening this sentence, he gets despair. He is in despair. Then furthermore, the astrologer says, "Guru Nayak." At this, the stranger gets surprised that how this astrologer know my name. Then he says, "You know my name?" Astrologer advises him, "Listen carefully. Go back to your village north. I see once again a danger in your life. So it is better you don't travel southwards, you go towards your north, go back to your home and live safely." Then the stranger tells that why I left my village is because I was in search of the person who tried to kill me, but he died as he deserved. And then the astrologer replied that he was crushed under the truck. He met with an accident and he died. So stranger was satisfied, and then he leaves that marketplace. But before leaving that marketplace, he puts coins into the hands of the stranger. So the story began in the midday, that is afternoon, in the marketplace, and now it is midnight. The astrologer comes home, his wife is waiting for him, and then you know that when father comes late night, then what is the reaction of the mother? And if father gives extra money to mother, how she reacts? So this astrologer flings the coins towards his wife, and she is overjoyed and she starts counting. The coins are 12.5 annas. And she says, "Now I can buy a jaggery and coconut." because our child was asking for that, and I can make a stuff out of that. Then the astrologer reacts. He says swine. He calls that stranger swine. He says swine because he cheated me. He promised to give me a rupee. Then the wife looks at his face. She says, you look worried. What is the reason? And he says nothing. And then after dinner, this astrologer sits on the payal. Payal means is a bed. And he says, do you know, a great load is gone from me today. A great burden has gone from me today. I had blood of a man on my hands all these years. That is why he says, I ran from the village and settled here and married you. And furthermore, he says he is alive. Then the wife reacts. She says, you tried to kill? Astrologer says, yes. When I was a silly youngster, I used to drink, I used to gamble, and I quarreled badly one day. And then he cuts the topic and he says, why to think now? And he yawns and stretches and he goes to sleep. So this is what the story is. It is a thriller and it has a suspense. And a moral of the story is irony of fate. Okay. So this I've already given one assignment in the first part, that is practice make man perfect. You expand that idea. The next assignment I would like to give is prepare a speech or draft a speech on science and superstition. Hope you like the story. You solve the activities. Then there is a code mixing, usage of words, writing skill we have to carry out. So keep yourself busy, study hard, stay home, stay safe. Thank you.